So we're going to take our thread and again start it just like we did with our hook keeper. We're about 1/4 inch away from the guide. We made an X wrapping over it. And that's 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Doesn't really matter how many times you wrap over. You can do it 10 times if you want to. I'm just going to get rid of it right away there. These larger guides are more difficult to start wrapping over that tip of that foot. So take your time, don't get frustrated. I like to push it over a little bit. See how nice it went up on that Batson guide foot? That's good grind. Good grinding. Some other guides you might run into, they're not pre-ground. Just adds another step to your rye building. We prefer to grind them for you. So you wrap up to your tape. Grab your little tag end here, and she pulls off nice and easy. Be gentle as you pull your tape off so you don't move the guide too much. And away she goes. Maybe burnish some if you need to. Have a nice little angle, 5 degrees, 6 degrees, 7 degrees, whatever works for you. I like to work with the rod rotating away from me so I can see the thread align. If I go the other direction, you can't see it, so we like to rotate it away. And now that we're up to this next tape, I can't pull this off because of the way it's taped together here, so I'm going to have to cut it. Be real careful when you have a razor blade near the blank. You don't want to cut the blank, and you don't want to cut your thread, so it gets a little more difficult. So I'm going to go right at the bottom of this guide foot here because there's this tunnel. I know I'm not going to hit blank if I cut right here. I don't know if you can see this tunnel or not, but if you do get to that point, just cut where the guide is. Try not to cut where the blank is. And again, be careful not to hit your thread. Okay, now that we have this tape cut, try not to cut the blank. Put this down over here so I don't cut that part. We're going to take my little tool here and just try to lift up this tag in so I can pull this off now. One extra step that not totally necessary if you tape it the carry way. Now we're going to continue to wrap. You don't need to try to wrap as fast as I'm going, obviously, until you get the hang of it. I'm going to back it up just a little bit, put my loop in. This loop's a little bit short, so you might want to go a little longer. Again, the loop end's going towards the guide on the opposite side, 180 degrees. So 180 degrees from here, the loop's going towards the guide ring. And we're going to wrap over that 5 or 6 or 7 times, whatever you feel comfortable. If you don't wrap it over at least 4 or 5 times, it's going to be too loose and it might come unwound. It happens. I like to wrap up to maybe a 16th or a 32nd before it starts coming up this guide foot. You see how this guide foot starts to climb up towards this ring here? If you wrap your thread all the way up to here, it makes this real unusual ramp, and your glue will not adhere to it. So we like to stop right about here. It'll make a nice level glue, which you'll see later on in the video. Okay, so again, put our finger for tension, cut down 5 or 6 inches. I like to pull it down straight, pull it through the loop there. It's kind of a double hander there. Apply tension, pull your loop straight across. Check, make sure it's all straight. Nice and clean. And we'll go ahead and cut. Nice and perfect. That looks really good. So if yours turns out just like this, that's pretty darn good. Okay, I'm going to take this off, move over to the tip, just going to eyeball it. I'm just going to move it over just a little bit. That'll help the next process. Now we're going to do the very tip. This process isn't necessary. It gives it a nice cosmetic look, a transition, as well as it keeps your line from wrapping on this tube. We call it tip wrap or half hitch or what have you. So we'll wrap some thread on that. If you struggle with it, then don't worry about it. It's not that important, but cosmetically it's correct. So what we want to do is have it supported just about like this, about an inch or so on your rod support. That way it's not bending too much. This is the weakest link of the fishing rod. Nice easy thread tension. There's very little resistance here, enough that it'll hold itself when we wrap. We're going to make our X. And we're going to wrap over it. So it's up to you how long you want this wrap. It has no functionality, more cosmetic, but it does, like I said, help a little bit from tip wrap. I try to make it about the same length or maybe just a little shorter than the guide below, cosmetically. And it's wrapped exactly like you wrapped your guides, except for you're not going over a foot. We'll finish wrapping this, making sure we're not hitting any guides in our rod supports. And just before the tube, put your loop through. Wrap over it 4 or 5 times. Cut it. And we're going to pull it through. Be very careful. And we're going to burnish it a little bit. Okay, now we have our little tip wrap. Now we're going to take this off real quick, and we're going to wrap the ferrule end or the female end of the tip section. Most fishing rods are designed, the blanks are designed with a reinforcement now in these sections. They call it a flag. It's an extra piece of graphite here that gives the ferrule integrity. We get a lot of questions on, do you wrap a ferrule wrap and what it does? And we always say it's a good idea to wrap, not just to protect the ferrule from it splitting out, that it might happen, but more when it's in two-piece form, laying around, you're protecting this male end with thread and the wrappings. Cosmetically, it looks really nice too. So again, making your X, try to make it about a 1/4 inch or a 1/16 of an inch. If you get it too close, sometimes it gets wore, and eventually in 3 or 4 years, it might end up undoing itself eventually. So give yourself this nice little, I don't know how much that is, maybe a 1/16 or a 1/4 of an inch blank showing. Wrap over it 4, 5, 6 times, cut it, and you can go ahead and wrap. This one's just a little bit crooked. There we go. And you have a nice angle. It'll usually stack. You won't have to burnish as much. It'll keep from gapping in the threads here. Looks clean. like we have a little China marker there marking our spot, so we'll just wrap right over that. Okay, and we're going to finish it. And we're going to put our loop going away from where we started. There would normally be a guide here, but there isn't, so that could be confusing sometimes. And I'm going to go ahead and finish off tension here. And we're pulling it through. And we're cutting off. And there we go. We have the tip all wrapped. We'll make sure our guides are all straight. I like to work from the very tip part and move my guides as I go along. Try not to move them too much. Try not to touch the thread wrappings too much. Just moving them nice and easy. I just try not to touch the thread much at all. Make sure my guides are all straight. Okay. Okay, great. Now that we're all finished wrapping, a couple quick pointers. Make sure your hands are always clean. Again, that's a major part of it. Making sure your guide wraps are all nice and tight, and making sure your guides aren't touching any of your rod supports when you're wrapping. And yeah, we're ready to do a finish coat now.